and welcome to this video on national happiness and well-being. In this video we're going to look at what is meant by UK national well-being and then look at the relationship between real incomes and subjective happiness. Let's start off with UK national well-being, and you might want to consider for a second what makes you happy. Now traditionally this has not really been the scope of economists, but increasingly there's a demand that policies that governments use should be more closely aligned with what matters to people and their well-being, rather than just purely pursuing GDP or lower inflation or lower unemployment. Richard Layard, an economist at the LSE, has worked extensively on the subject of national well-being and has come up with 7 characteristics that he feels influence how happy the country is as a whole. The first, family relationships. The second, your financial situation. Third is work. Fourth is community and friends. The fifth is health. The sixth is personal freedom. And the seventh is personal values. The United Nations also took up this theme, and they now publish a happiness report for countries around the world, and they look at 6 criteria: real GDP per capita, life expectancy, having someone to count on, perceived freedom to make life choices, freedom from corruption, and generosity. If you look at their report, these countries tend to come towards the top, and this is the key, determining which part of their score is determined by which category of the 6. So those are the most happy. We're probably thinking now, well, what are the least happy? These are the ones that have come near the bottom of the score. And the data comes from people's evaluation of their own lives. And the report found that mental health is the biggest single factor affecting happiness in any country, although only a quarter of mentally ill people get treatment for their condition in advanced countries. David Cameron, when he came to power in 2010, also looked to make happiness as important as GDP when it comes to policy decisions. He launched the Measuring National Wellbeing programme to start measuring not just how our economy is growing and how it's doing, but how lives are improving. The Office for National Statistics now compile data covering 10 domains and 38 measures of well-being based on what people in the UK said actually matter to them. And this data can be found on their website under the National Wellbeing Measures of National Wellbeing wheel, which is fun to have a little play on, and you can see how the country is evaluating its own well-being. So we've looked now at UK national well-being. Let's move on to real incomes and subjective happiness. It has been assumed by many economists that a rise in GDP or GNP per capita must be a good thing, and this is what governments should aim to achieve with their policies. However, it seems to be the case, particularly for richer developed nations, that economic growth has failed to make people happier. And decision makers are beginning to realise that more purchasing power is not the key to happiness. This has been characterised as the Easterlin paradox. Let's have a little read of this first paragraph. And what this is referring to is this chart on the right-hand side. Since about the 1960s, in the US, real incomes have risen, generally speaking, but the percentage of people who say they're happy has not increased. So there doesn't seem to be a correlation between incomes rising and people getting happier, which is not what we might assume, which gives rise to this paradox. In international comparisons, the average reported level of happiness between countries didn't vary very much, despite very large differences in incomes. However, they did find that within an economy, the richer citizens are generally happier on average than the poorer ones. So what this led Richard Layard, our economist from the LSE, to conclude was that happiness depends on relative income and wealth. In other words, we only feel happier if we feel better off than the people with whom we compare ourselves. It also seems to be the case that individuals get used to how much material wealth they can buy, and they adapt their expectations upwards. So an increase in incomes across society as a whole, the purchasing power becomes habit, becomes quite normal, and we don't necessarily feel happier. We only feel happier when we become richer relative to the other people within the society that we live. So in this video we've looked at UK national wellbeing and the difference, or sorry, the relationship between real incomes and subjective happiness. That's it. Bye.